In Jujutsu Kaisen, Gojo is loved by many and hated by a lot of people, and most of the people that hate him are his enemies. And this is mostly due to the fact of how broken he is. He's so broken, in fact, that the creator literally had to write him being in prison just for the villains to have a chance at fighting off the main cast. Even though Gojo's this broken, I think there is someone that does have the potential to actually surpass him, and that is of course Yuta. Before we continue though, don't forget to like and sub if you like any of the content you see here. Thank you. We've all heard it before, even from Gojo himself, that Yuta is special and that he has potential to rival and if not surpass Gojo, and I think that this is definitely true and definitely will possibly happen by the end of the story. There's a bunch of different reasons why this is the most likely outcome, and I'm going to list a bunch of them right now. The first thing I feel like we should focus on that Yuta does very well is his raw amount of cursed energy, and Yuta possesses a lot of this. It was stated that his amount of cursed energy is far greater than that of Gojo, which is obviously an incredible feat in and of itself. Of course though, the trade-off is that Gojo, while using Infinity and the Six Eyes, has nearly zero cursed energy uses due to the combination of both of these, but it's still insane that Yuta has so much more cursed energy than the almost god of the Jujutsu world as Gojo is. Yuta with this abundant amount of cursed energy can tank hits that most people would not survive at all. And on top of that, he's able to deliver earth-shattering blows himself that most people can't survive either. The almost unbelievable amount of cursed energy that he has whenever he fights really gives him the ability to have almost an unbreakable armor that he uses against opponents, while being able to fire back his own attacks that honestly they aren't going to be able to really defend against. And we've seen this in a lot of his fights. He doesn't really ever try too hard in any of his fights, and he usually gets it done pretty fast. I feel like one of the best examples of just the sheer amount of potential that Yuta has was definitely his fight with Geto, and we have to remember that during this fight he wasn't even really a sorcerer for more than maybe even a couple months or not over a year, and he was able to fight on par with someone that is a special grade. As we know, Geto was at the time, he was on the rise and he was on the same level as Gojo at the time. And he definitely had way more experience than Yuta at this point. He had probably many years of experience in the Jujutsu world, and he was very strong, and Yuta kind of made light work of him during that fight. There is talks from people about the fact that Geto might have actually won if he didn't divide up the curses that he had at his disposal, which might be the case, but I still do believe it's just the fact that Yuta was barely even a sorcerer and he was still able to fight on par with someone as strong as Geto. So even if maybe he would have won potentially if he did have all of the curses instead of having them spread out, I do think the fact that Yuta was even able to get where he was in the fight and still defeat Geto even during Geto being sort of weakened is still a big feat on Yuta's part, since he wasn't a sorcerer for that long. He really wasn't, and he was able to defeat him. The way he uses his cursed energy and he fights his opponents kind of does remind me of Gojo in a way, where instead of Gojo not letting the attacks ever hit him, Yuta lets them hit him but they don't do anything. So it's kind of a similar effect where people will hit him but it doesn't really do anything. He can just tank them the same way that Gojo kind of just doesn't get hit at all, and he's able to fire back with his own attacks that are very strong the same way Gojo does. So I feel like they're very similar in this regard, and I feel like that's why Gojo kind of sees a little bit of himself in Yuta. Of course, we also have to bring up the fact that he has access to Rika, and Rika is a very big asset to him. She's almost this autonomous fighter that can fight without being told what to do, and she really does help Yuta tag team a lot of enemies. If you're fighting Yuta, it's most likely going to be a 2v1 and you're most likely not going to win. There's also the fact that while Yuta has Rika out, at least currently in the manga, he sort of has this infinite amount of cursed energy, it's explained as, whenever he has her out, and he has this for about 5 minutes. So during this time, it seems like he can really run wild and do whatever he really wants to opponents, and this is very insane just on his part, since he already has a lot of cursed energy, but then adding in Rika and adding in that 5 minutes, it really does seem like he has limitless potential when he's fighting an opponent. We also have to remember the fact that Geto himself literally said that Rika was the queen of curses and that using her he would have had all of his plans come to fruition. So it seems like she really is someone that we should regard very highly, and we honestly don't even know too much about her still in the manga. We don't really know the upper limits of what Rika can do, or what Yuta and Rika together can do, or what Geto kind of saw in Rika at the time that made him call her the queen of curses and think that he could have all of his dreams, all of his plans come to fruition. So we're probably going to learn all of this before the end of the manga, but it's still very crazy just how powerful or just how menacing and the potential that Rika has, and Yuta of course put together with Rika. And of course, one of the most interesting abilities that Yuta has under his belt is his ability to copy curse techniques, and I think this is one of the most underrated kind of aspects of him, since we don't even know the upper limits of it. We did see him copy the Inumaki technique of cursed speech, and we see that he was able to almost use it better than Inumaki himself. He only really said that it was kind of hard to control the flow of cursed energy when he was talking out, but he still used it without any repercussions or without needing the throat medicine, and he even used like a high level kind of speech. He told the curses to die, and they did, and we see that if Inumaki did something like this, it would have probably been really harsh on his throat, and he probably would have been incapacitated afterwards. So Yuta's able to use this technique even better than Inumaki himself, just, you know, maybe not with the same curse control since he hasn't used it since his, you know, whole life. So it's very insane kind of seeing him use that, and we don't know the upper limits of this. We don't know what exactly he can copy, and that begs the question, what if he's able to actually copy domain expansions also, or things of that ability, since he's able to copy the techniques? What if he copies a domain expansion and maybe he even does this with sort of Gojo's domain, and he's able to use it not at the same level, but we all know how his domain works. If he uses it for even an infinitesimal second, he could probably win any fight that he gets into. So that's very scary to think about, the fact that Yuta might have access to a domain expansion that could be Gojo's or could be anybody's, or he could use anybody's domain. That's very scary to think about and puts him on a level really by himself. And one of the last things I wanted to get into is the fact that he has a reverse curse technique, which we know that if any sorcerer has this, they're already at a base level put at a higher point than a lot of other people. Just the fact of having a reverse curse technique does put you at a higher level than a lot of other sorcerers, and he has this. He's always had it really, and he showed it off a lot of times in the story, and it's very, very important that he has this. It does put him at another level. And on top of that, like I was saying before, he has his own domain expansion, so we have to put these two together. He has reverse curse techniques and a domain expansion, which are two things that sorcerers kind of seek out. Many sorcerers will work very hard to sort of get a reverse curse technique if they're lucky and blessed enough to get one, and a lot of them work hard to sort of train and get a domain expansion, but for him to get both of them so early on is very insane. We still don't know exactly what the domain does. We can only really speculate right now, but the fact that he even has one is insane in and of itself, and I really do want to see what it does. I really do, and I can't wait till it gets revealed. I feel like all of this put together really just shows that Yuta is almost the perfect Jujutsu sorcerer when you really look at it, and he has almost everything going for him. He has abundant amount of cursed energy. He has his own sort of curse to fight autonomously for him. He has nearly infinite cursed energy using sort of abilities. He can copy cursed techniques. He has his own domain. He has reverse curse techniques. He really has everything going for him to make him the ultimate Jujutsu sorcerer, and I really do feel like this is why Gojo himself says that Yuta has the potential to surpass him. It seems like Yuta really does have everything that Gojo has. A lot of cursed energy, he has a reverse curse technique, he has the ability to have his own domain, he has a lot of things going for him, and I really do think this really does put Yuta over the edge in terms of all of the competition in the story, and it really does show that he has almost the most potential to become the greatest Jujutsu sorcerer. He's gonna probably be on the same level as Gojo, just in the fact that he has everything going for him to make him the best sorcerer that he can possibly be. With that being said though, don't forget to like and comment and sub to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me, and I want to thank everybody for making it to the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and I'm out. Peace.